What is your first thought on walking through a museum filled with priceless works of art? Would it be appreciation for the skill and craftsmanship needed to create the piece? Or how much it would go for on eBay? Find out the answer to these questions and more on this episode of Unsolved Mysteries Solved!
Yeah.
Hello and welcome back, everybody, to a brand new episode of Unsolved Mysteries Solved. I am your gorgeous co-host, Cassandra Cherry. Cassandra Cherry. Dr. Cassandra Cherry, in fact. I forgot my own name there for a half second. And with me is our fantabulous host and professional art appraiser, Dr. Chad Kimmins. How are you doing here today, Chad?
I'm doing well. I'm only professional in the sense that I get paid for it.
Yeah.
Which is literally what professional means. I'm not good at, I don't know anything about art. Like, I literally just go, yep, that's art.
That sure is a painting right there. Howdy do. I'd say that looks expensive, yeah. That's the job of an appraiser.
You painted what looks to be a bowl of fruit. Here's a bowl of fruit to compare it to. Looks pretty good.
Oh, jeez. That's just classwork. I have no idea how many paintings of bowls of fruits have been produced the world over.
I don't think
Millions.
we ever had to do bowls of fruit in my art classes that I took.
Yeah?
It was more just like pick something in the room and draw it.
Oh, that's valid. We did that, and I've also drawn naked people. Life art is fun. So, here today, if you hadn't guessed it, we're talking about perhaps the biggest art heist in the history of the world.
Ooh.
Yeah, this happened nearly 30 years ago, and we're still no closer to figuring out what happened to all that priceless art. It happened in the early morning hours of March 18th, 1990, at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. The guards on night shift that night were Rick Abath, 23, and Randy Hestand, 25.
Randy!
Yeah, so essentially children. Abath was a regular night watchman, and it was Hestand's first time on the night shift. Security policy was that one guard patrolled the premises like any guard in any video game ever would, with a flashlight and a walkie-talkie, while the other sat at the security desk. During Abath's patrol, fire alarms sounded in several different rooms, but he couldn't locate any fire or smoke. He returned to the security room to look at the fire alarm control panel, and, assuming that it must be a malfunction, shut it down.
Shut it down.
He shut it down. I'm sure there's like a TikTok dance for that somewhere.
Maybe. I was referencing, I don't know if you've ever seen New Girl, but...
I haven't.
Oh, well, then that reference won't make sense, so continue.
Well, it makes sense for everyone else who has watched New Girl.
Well, there's a part where the main character, Jess, is like talking about like, oh, if there's like sexual tension or touching or whatever, she's a vice principal. And she's like, just go, shut it down. And she like crosses her arms and then puts them out to her side when she says shut it down.
Huh.
And she accidentally like touches the crotchal region of the man behind her that she's super into. I don't know.
Oh, bless her heart.
Anyway.
Stop. Don't touch me there. This is my no-no square.
My no-no square is my whole body. Don't touch me. Don't look at it. Don't perceive me.
I don't exist.
Keep my name out your mouth.
But yeah, so he shut down the fire control panel.
Okay.
And went back to his rounds. Sometime in the middle of them, he made a quick stop at the side entrance of the museum, where he briefly opened the side door. He never told Hestand why he was doing this, or what he was doing. Afterwards, he completed his rounds, and Hestand switched out with him at around 1 a.m.
So, hold on. He unlocked or opened the side door for some reason?
He opened it and then shut it.
Oh, well, he did it. He's in on it.
Yeah, that's a good thought. It's a good thought. It's certainly a thought that the investigators had later on down the road, but that's going to be later on down the road.
Solved it. Done.
Solved it. It's a bath.
Shortest episode to date.
Again, shut it down. But at 1:20 a.m., so about maybe 20-30 minutes later, the thieves drove up to the side entrance and walked up to ring the buzzer. They spoke to Abath at the security desk, claiming that they were police officers and that they were responding to a disturbance call. It was a reasonable claim, as there were still St. Patrick's Day revelers partying near the museum at midnight, and someone could have thrown a bottle or kicked up a fuss or something similar.
Now, real quick, where did you say this took place? Boston?
This took place at a museum in Boston.
Okay.
So, pretty big Italian population. Or not Italian, Irish.
Well, there's probably a lot of Italians there too, so.
I mean, valid. It's a big immigrant city. But yeah. Abath could also see them in police uniforms on the CCTV, believed their story, and let them in at 1:24 a.m. It's also relevant to note that several partygoers returning home did in fact confirm the presence of quote-unquote policemen 100 feet from the side entrance, parked in a hatchback on Palace Road at 12:30 a.m.
Like, it wasn't a cop car, it was just a normal hatchback?
Yeah.
That already... No, okay.
I mean, the partygoers seemed to believe they were policemen, but it was a normal hatchback.
Hey, that must be an unmarked car with those cops sitting in it.
That's not suspicious at all.
Cops don't, like, even unmarked, they don't drive hatchbacks.
No, they just don't. But, anyways, the thieves were led into a locked foyer that separated the side room from the museum. They approached Abath at his desk and asked if anyone else was in the museum and to bring them down. Abath radioed Hestand to return to the security desk.
Okay.
Abath noticed around this time that the mustache on the taller man appeared fake. Like it was kind of peeling off a little bit there.
I'm imagining it's not, the mustache wasn't even part of the disguise. Like, so that, you know, they would be looking for someone with a mustache. It's just, he's just like, yeah, this is what cops look like, right? Everybody's got a mustache.
Yeah, every cop in the 1990s has this mustache here. It's part of regulation, eh?
Hey, Joe, why are you wearing that mustache? Because all cops have mustaches. You don't want them to think that we're not real cops, do you? I mean, that's why we got the hatchback. It's so realistic.
It reminds me a little bit of, like, the guys from Home Alone. The wet bandits.
Yeah.
It seems like the sort of decision they would make. But the shorter man, who was posing as a policeman, told Abath that he looked familiar, that they might have a warrant out for his arrest, and to come out from behind the desk and provide identification. That's more New Jersey, but whatever, it's all New England anyways. Abath complied, stepping away from the desk, where the only panic button to alert the police was. The shorter man forced Abath against a wall, spread his legs, and handcuffed him. He then noticed that he wasn't frisked. Hestand walked into the room around this time, and the taller thief turned him around and handcuffed him too. Once both guards were handcuffed, the thieves revealed their true intentions, to rob the museum, and asked the guards to not give them any problems.
And then they murdered them!
I mean, they could have, they almost could have, because the thieves wrapped duct tape around their heads and around their eyes, and if they just went a little lower...
Yeah.
But without asking for directions, they led the guards into the basement, where they were then handcuffed to a steam pipe and a workbench. The thieves examined the wallets of the guards and explained that they knew where they live now, and to not tell the authorities anything, and they would get a reward in about a year.
I'm just... We know where you live now. Ha! I haven't changed I haven't gotten a new ID since I moved. You don't know shit.
I mean, valid.
I went almost 2 years once without changing my ID. It wasn't until I got pulled over for something, and the cop was like, "You still live here?" And I was like, "Do I still live?" Like, I just told you I'm going to work. Do I still live in, a town that's not here? Yes, I commute 2.5 hours to work every day. Like, so he gave me a not a fine, but one of those like warning tickets. Like, hey, get this shit fixed.
That's so valid. Like when I moved to my college town, I forgot to renew my license when it got to that, like, every 4 years you have to renew your license. I forgot to because I had never done that before, and no one ever explained to me that that was something you needed to do. And so I just went around for like a year and a half with an expired license.
Oh, dear God. Anyway.
Okay, but yeah, anyways. So it took the thieves about 11 minutes to subdue the guards, making it 1:35 a.m.
Okay.
The thieves' movements in the museum were recorded on infrared motion detectors. They didn't enter the first room, the Dutch room, until 1:48 a.m., leaving about 13 minutes unaccounted for. As the thieves approached the paintings in the Dutch room, a device began beeping that would normally trip when a patron got too close to a painting. The thieves smashed it. From there, they took The Storm on the Sea of Galilee and A Lady and a Gentleman in Black, both Rembrandts, and threw them on the marble floor, shattering their glass frames. And right here, already, my dad is a professional artist, and I just wanted to scream when I read this, because they could have destroyed Rembrandts right then and there. You do not F with the glass.
Right.
You do not have paintings near broken glass. That is so bad. They could...
I mean, there's a reason that it's in glass, like, usually very climate controlled.
And you don't break the glass. Even if you're stealing the paintings, don't break the glass. Beg of you.
Right.
The recklessness. I'm screaming. Anyways. Minor tantrum there.
You good?
But they then did more. They were so bad because they used a blade to cut the canvases out of their stretchers so that they could roll the canvases up for transport. But dear God in heaven, why the fuck?
Why the fuck? What? Cut them?
Yeah, you don't cut a Rembrandt.
Well, that's actually, like, that's pretty typical of stealing a painting, is that you cut around the stretcher.
It is. I hate it.
So
I hate it so much. I hate it so much. Just Rembrandt is one of the greats of, like, the Dutch Renaissance. Like, the Italian Renaissance, the Dutch also had a Renaissance, and I'm just like, oh, no. It makes me upset.
You really picked a topic that you're pretty passionate about, I see.
Yes! I like art. Art is important. Art is pretty. And don't mess with the Renaissance people. Just let them live.
Right.
But anyways, moving on.
Right.
They also removed a large Rembrandt self-portrait oil painting from the wall, but left it leaning against a cabinet. Investigators believe they may have considered it too large to transport because it was painted on wood instead of actual, like, durable canvas like the others.
Right.
Instead, they took a small postage-sized portrait etching by Rembrandt on display beneath the larger portrait. On the right side of the room, they removed Landscape with Obelisk, which was once falsely attributed to Rembrandt, but his pupil, Govert Flinnick, kind of raised his hand and was like, that's actually one of mine. And then The Concert by Johannes Vermeer, and stole them from their frames. The final piece taken out from that room was an ancient Chinese gu, which is a ritual bronze drinking vessel, dated back to the Shang Dynasty, I believe.
Okay, so this wasn't a painting, it was just a piece on display.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why a Chinese gu was in the Dutch room, but here we are.
Right.
At 1:51 a.m., while one thief continued working in the Dutch room, the other entered a narrow hallway dubbed the Short Gallery on the other end of the second floor. The other thief soon joined. In this room, they began removing screws for a frame displaying a Napoleonic flag, though they appear to have given up partway, as not all the screws were removed. Ultimately, they took only the exposed eagle finial from atop the flagpole. They also took 5 Degas sketches from the room, and the last work stolen was Ches Tortoni from the blue room on the first floor. The museum's motion detectors did not detect any motion within the Blue Room during the thieves' time in the building.
So, they wanted this flag from Napoleon's era, correct?
Yeah.
But they couldn't get it.
Yeah.
So they were like, F it, let's take the eagle on top of the flagpole.
For some reason, yeah, I guess.
Like, I'm sure it would sell for quite a bit, but I feel like the flag was the more important piece. I don't know.
Apparently, they just gave up. They're just like, it's not worth it unscrewing these screws. We broke the glass on Rembrandts and cut them out of their frames, out of their stretchers, but we can't unscrew some screws.
I love how you just keep coming back to that.
It makes me so angry.
Now, were the motion detectors were there not any in the Blue Room, or were they disabled? Like,
they were in the Blue Room, and they detected, Albert, what was that his name? But the first security guy, they detected him.
I don't know. You're the one telling me the story.
I know, but I don't know people's names. I just wrote the script.
Who am I?
What are you? Where are we?
Why are you in my house?
What year is it?
Sir, this is an Arby's? Anyway.
Can you just imagine a time traveler at the Arby's? Oh, where was I? So, as they prepared to leave, the thieves went to the security director's office, where they took the video cassettes that recorded their entrance on the CCTV, and they also took the data printouts from the motion detecting equipment. That data was still captured on a hard drive, though, which is why the investigators have it, and the hard drive was remained untouched. The frame for the Ches Tortoni was left at the security director's desk, and then they moved to take the artwork out of the museum. The side entrance doors were opened once at 2:40 a.m. and again for the last time at 2:45, making the robbery last around 81 minutes.
Okay.
The next shift of guards arrived later in the morning and realized something was amiss when they could not establish contact with anyone inside to be let in.
Right.
They called in a security director who, upon entering the building with his keys, found nobody at the watch desk and called police. The police searched the building until they found the guards still tied in the basement. That sort of concludes, the actual act of the theft.
Right.
And so, I want to talk a little bit about what they stole, a little bit more about that.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, something like 13 artworks were stolen. And in 1990, the FBI initially estimated the value of the art to be at around $200 million. But they since raised that value to $500 million by the 2000s.
Right.
The single most valuable item was the concert by the Dutch painter Vermeer, who had only 34 paintings attributed to him. That painting accounts for half the hall's value at $250 million in 2015. The Rembrandts were also expectedly large hauls, but the experts looking at this case were confused by their choice to take the Goo and the Filial and the 5 sketches by Edgar Degas, when there were other far more valuable works in the museum. Works from the Italian Renaissance by Raphael, Botticelli, and Michelangelo. They never even entered the third... Huh?
It was just Michelangelo.
Michelangelo. But they never even entered the third floor where the most valuable paintings in the city hung on display. Yeah, so the selection of works and the brutish way they handled the artwork led investigators to believe that the thieves were not specifically experts in the field or professionals committed to commissioned to steal particular works.
Right.
Even though they did specifically target the Rembrandts.
Right.
So yeah, I have to question the experts on this one.
Maybe they were commissioned to steal some stuff. Well, that's for theories.
Yeah, but it's good that we're thinking about it. Good to keep it in mind. So, we're almost to the theories, but I wanted to go over what theories the investigators were working with before we get into that.
Okay.
So, the FBI took immediate control of this case and have called it unique for its lack of physical evidence. The thieves did not leave behind any footprints or hair, and fingerprints were inconclusive as they overlapped too much with those of the employees.
Okay.
The guards and witnesses in the street described one thief as being about 5 feet 9 inches tall, 1.75 meters, to 5 feet 10 inches, 1.78 meters, in his late 30s with a medium build, and the others being 6 feet, or 1.83 meters, to 6 feet and an inch, 1.85. I don't know why they have to distinguish that. It's a difference of an inch. But that one was in his early 30s with a heavier build.
Okay.
We're going down this list suspect by suspect.
Okay.
Naturally, the first one being Rick Abath.
Dastardly bastard.
Bastardly bastard man. But the security guard was investigated early on because of his suspicious behavior that you noted earlier.
Mm.
Some believed that his act of briefly opening the side door could have been the signal to the thieves to come on ahead. Abath told authorities that he did this routinely to ensure that the door was locked. But one of his colleagues told journalists that if Abath had opened the door routinely, as he maintains, supervisors would have seen it on computer printouts and put a stop to it.
Okay.
There was also a suspicion that Abath sabotaged the motion detector in the Blue Room, as it stopped recording anyone's movements after the last time he passed through there. However, a security consultant determined that it was still operating appropriately. Abath maintains his innocence, and the overseeing FBI agent determined that the guards were too incompetent and foolish to have pulled off this crime. That takes us to someone that we have not heard mentioned in this.
Okay.
Whitey Bulger.
Whitey Bulger?
Whitey Bulger.
I think I've heard that name before.
Oh yeah?
I don't know where. It just sounds familiar.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if you had, because Whitey Bulger was one of the most powerful crime bosses in Boston during the era.
Oh.
He was leading the Winter Hill Gang.
Okay.
Whitey Bulger claimed he did not organize the heist, and in fact sent his agents out in an attempt to determine who did, because the robbery was committed on, quote, his turf, and he wanted to be paid tribute.
Just imagine it, like... You know, I don't give a fuck that you stole those paintings, but, you don't do it.
I want my cut.
Don't do it in my neighborhood, pal, you mook. Give me my money.
Give us the money!
Show me the
Channeling
money.
John Mulaney here.
Well, I was on the bench.
And you didn't stop him?
Well, I was on the bench. And what were you doing? Well, see, I was over on the bench.
But FBI agent Thomas McShane investigated Bulger for his involvement, and determined that the Bulger's strong ties with the Boston police could explain how the thieves acquired legitimate police uniforms. Or perhaps he could have even arranged it with real police to do the heist. Bulger had also had relations with the Irish Republican Army. McShane identified the bogus tripping of the fire alarm ahead of the heist as a calling card of the IRA and of the rival Ulster Volunteer Force. Both organizations had agents in Boston at the time, and both had demonstrated a capability in the past of pulling off art heists.
Okay.
However, the investigation of Bulger and the IRA did not produce any evidence to tie them to the theft. Charlie Hill, a retired art and antiquities investigator for Scotland Yard, however, claimed Bulger gave the Gardner works to the IRA, and they are most likely in Ireland. Then there was a letter in 1994. So in 1994, museum director Anne Hawley received an anonymous letter from someone who claimed to be attempting to negotiate a return of the artwork. The writer explained that they were a third-party negotiator and did not know the identity of the thieves. They explained that the artwork was stolen to reduce a prison sentence, but as the opportunity had passed, there was no longer a motive to keep the artwork, and they wanted to negotiate a return. The writer explained that the artwork was being held in a non-common law country under climate-controlled conditions.
Right.
They wanted immunity for themselves and all others involved, and a $2.6 million return for the return of the artwork.
Okay.
If the museum was interested in negotiating, they should print a coded message in the Boston Globe. To establish credence, the writer conveyed information known only by the museum and the FBI at the time. Hawley felt that this was a strong lead, so she contacted the FBI, and then they contacted the Globe, and the coded message was printed in the May 1st, 1994 edition of the Boston Globe. Hawley received a second letter a few days later, in which the writer acknowledged the museum was interested in negotiating, but they had become fearful of what they perceived was a massive investigation by federal and state authorities to determine their identity. The writer explained that they needed time to evaluate their options, and Hawley never heard from the writer again.
This feels very like Sugar.
It does, doesn't it?
Like, same fucking kind of thing where, they were contacted and then they were never heard from again. And, like, it just feels like they're trying, kind of like with that one where they were, like, kind of trying to throw, somebody off the trail.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Just throw smoke in the air. Just be like, I see tracks, they're going this way!
Right.
But from here, the FBI decided, we're not going to focus on these leads anymore, that they're not quite as promising. But we really, really got some good information on the Boston Mafia.
Okay.
So they had announced significant progress with their investigation in March 2013. The FBI reported, quote-unquote, with a high degree of confidence, that they had identified the thieves, which they believed were members of a criminal organization based in the Mid-Atlantic and New England.
Okay.
In 2015, the FBI stated that both the thieves were deceased, though they did not publicly identify any individuals. Although they did not publicly identify any individuals, sources familiar with the investigation said they were associated with the gang from Dorchester. The gang was local to Boston Mafia boss Frank Salem and ran their operations out of an automobile repair shop run by criminal Carmelo Merlino.
Okay.
Among those associated with the Merlino gang were Robert Guarente and Manchester, Connecticut gangster Robert Gentile. Guarente died from cancer in 2004, but his widow Elaine told the FBI in 2010 that her husband had previously owned some of the paintings. She claimed that when her husband got sick with cancer in the early 2000s, he gave the paintings to Gentile for safekeeping. Gentile denied the accusations, claiming he was never given them and knew nothing of their whereabouts.
Okay.
He submitted to a polygraph test, which indicated he was lying when he denied any knowledge of the theft or the location of the artwork. Gentile maintained he was telling the truth and demanded a retest. During the retest, he said Elaine had once shown him the missing Rembrandt self-portrait, to which the polygraph machine indicated he was telling the truth. A few days later, the FBI stormed Gentile's house in Manchester with a search warrant. The FBI found a secret ditch beneath a false floor in the backyard shed, but found it empty. Gentile's son explained that the ditch flooded a few years prior, and his father was upset about whatever was stored there. In the basement, they found a copy of the Boston Herald from March 1990 reporting the theft, along with a piece of paper indicating what each piece might sell for on the black market. Beyond this, no conclusive evidence was found to indicate he had ever had the paintings. Gentile went to prison for 30 months on drug charges, and after getting out of prison, he spoke with investigative reporter Stephen Kirkjian, something like that, claiming he was framed by the FBI. When asked about what could have been in the ditch, Gentile could not recall, but believed it could have been small motors.
Small motors?
Yeah, just small motors. I dug him up in a ruin,
Okay.
I was playing My Time in Porsche, just, you gotta store your engine somewhere.
Alright.
Then there was David Turner, who was another associate of Merlino, and despite his claims of innocence, the FBI believes that he may have been one of the thieves, as he looked similar to the slimmer man in the police sketches. Evidence indicates that he went to Florida to pick up a cocaine order just days before the heist, and credit card records suggest that he remained there through the night of the robbery. But some investigators believe this may have been Turner's attempt at creating an alibi. The FBI thinks that the other thief was his friend and Merlino associate, George Reisfelder,
Okay.
who died in July 1991. No clues were found in his apartment or the homes of friends and relatives, but his siblings recall a painting similar to Chez Tortoni in his bedroom. In 1999, the FBI arrested Turner, Merlino, Rossetti, and others in a sting operation the day they planned to rob a Loomis Fargo vault. When the FBI brought Turner in for questioning, they told him they had information that he participated in the Gardner robbery, and that if he returned the paintings, they would let him go. He told the authorities he did not know who stole... Yeah?
It's a trap.
It's a trap!
We know you stole millions of dollars worth of paintings, but if you give them back, we'll let you go. No harm, or no foul, no big deal, you know.
Total immunity.
I don't believe you. I'd like to roll insight, please.
Yeah, seriously. I rolled a 20. The answer's no.
You motherfuckers are lying.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway.
But yeah, in his 2001 trial, David Turner claimed entrapment, that the FBI let the Loomis Fargo plot proceed so they could pressure him for information about the Gardner paintings. The jury, however, found him guilty and he was sent to prison. Turner was freed in November 2019, 1 month after Stephen Rossetti. Merlino died in prison in 2005.
I'm hearing there's a lot of people dead.
Yeah, oddly enough. So, last group of people I'm going to talk about involves Bobby Donati. So the criminal Bobby Donati was murdered in 1991 in the midst of a gang war with the Patriarca, whatever, crime family. It sounds Italian. His involvement in the Gardner theft was suspected after the notorious New England art thief Miles J. Connor Jr. spoke with authorities. Connor was in jail at the time of the heist, but he believed Donati and criminal David Houghton were the masterminds.
Okay.
Connor had worked with Donati in past art heists, and claimed the two-cased Gardner Museum, where Donati took interest in the finial. Connor also claimed that Houghton visited him in jail after the heist, and said that he and Donati organized it and were going to use the paintings to get Connor out of jail. Like Donati, however, Houghton also died within 2 years of the robbery.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Though from illness rather than murder.
Yeah, quote, illness,
Connor told investigators he could assist in returning the Gardner works in exchange for the museum's posted reward and his freedom. But the investigators did not give in to Connor's demands because of the lack of evidence. And when that happened, Connor suggested they speak with criminal and antiques dealer William P. Youngworth.
Okay.
So, acting on that lead, the FBI opened a case on Youngworth and conducted raids on his home and antique store properties in the 90s. The raids caught the attention of journalist Tom Mashberg, who began talking with Youngworth. And so one night in August, Youngworth called Mashberg in and told him he had proof that he could return the Gardner paintings under the right conditions. That night, Youngworth picked Mashberg up from the Boston Herald and drove him to a warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn. Youngworth led him inside to a storage unit with several large cylinder tubes. He removed one painting from its tube, unfurled it, and showed it to Mashberg under flashlight.
Okay.
It appeared to Mashberg to be The Storm on the Sea of Galilee. He noticed cracking along the canvas, and the edges were cut in a manner consistent with the museum's reports, as well as Rembrandt's signature on the ship's rudder. Mashberg wrote about his experience in the Boston Herald, leaving out details to hide Youngworth's identity and the painting's location, and he reported his informant told him the robbery was pulled off by 5 men and identified 2, Donati being one of the robbers, Houghton, one being responsible to remove the art to the safe house. The FBI discovered the location of the warehouse several months later and raided it, finding nothing. It's still not conclusive that this was what happened, though, because the veracity of Youngworth's claims and the authenticity of the paintings shown to Mashberg has been disputed.
Okay.
Youngworth supplied paint chips to Mashberg and federal authorities, but they reported that while they were indeed from Rembrandt's era, they did not match the oils used for the storm on the Sea of Galilee. The way Mashberg described the painting as being unfurled has also been scrutinized, as the stolen painting was covered with a very heavy varnish that would not roll easily. It's not something that would just be like, whoosh, you know?
Yeah.
But that's about where the story ends. That's everything that is currently known about what happened.
Okay. So I know who did it.
You do? All right, who did it?
It was that bastard Abbott. Well, he didn't do it. He was in on it. Let me tell you what's up.
Tell me.
He did mess with the motion sensors.
Okay.
And the door opening was him signaling that, hey, come on in. He deliberately, he wanted the Rembrandts, or they wanted the Rembrandts, right?
Yeah.
But these are professional thieves. They know what's going on. So, Abath, who worked there and stuff, basically told them, steal the paintings that, we've discussed upon. Then you're going to go try to steal some other stuff, right? Just take random things to make it look like you don't know what you're doing. Stay away from all the really expensive shit upstairs because that's too high profile.
Yeah.
And when they took the printouts from the motion sensor machine thing, he deliberately told them not to take the hard drives again to make them look like they don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
This whole thing, Abath is a fucking genius, right? He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew, he was deliberately making himself and the thieves look like amateur hour.
Yeah, yeah.
So that the cops, when they investigated, wouldn't look too much further. But he was in on it. He didn't actually steal anything, but he was in on it.
Okay, that is entirely reasonable. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, this dude's been working there. I'm sure he knows a little bit about what's going, in the museum at least.
Yeah.
So
here's another question. Where do you think the paintings are now?
Dead. I don't know.
Dead, like everyone else who's in on this.
Yeah. I don't have an explanation for everybody dying. I was cooking up some theory about how it was to cover tracks, but it doesn't track. But as for where they're at, they are in a hole in the place.
They're in a hole in the bog.
They are in
the bog down in the valley-o.
They are on the tail of a frog on the bump on the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea.
Fair. I mean, that would explain why they haven't shown up at all.
Yeah. They are in the same place as Beale's treasure.
Never to be seen again.
Yes. I like how I've said 14 different places they could be. It's not 14, that's hyperbole. But anyway. They are in my computer room, hanging up.
Is that where they are? All this time?
Yes, I didn't steal them. I didn't realize that they were real Rembrandts.
Oh no!
Until just now, so I will be returning them.
Oh, of course.
But
I mean, this is all because you're a time traveler working with the IRA, apparently.
Sure.
If we're going back to
that's
sugar.
what we said. Yeah. Okay. So, but that's what happened. It was Abath and
Costello.
Maybe he hired. Maybe he hired these guys. Maybe they were all just friends or whatever. I don't know. But I think if you look hard enough, is Abath still alive? I assume because it was the 90s and he was 20 something.
I think so. I don't think I saw a death date for him.
Okay. I think you'll find this motherfucker has some Swiss bank accounts in Zurich.
Abath was the one going around knocking off the people who were part of this when they got to be too hot.
Yep, except that doesn't make sense because why would he kill the people who were taking the heat when he's not associated with them?
Maybe just because he's a dick. I don't know.
He didn't want anybody else having credit. He didn't want anybody to know that he did it, but he didn't want everybody else having the credit for it either.
Yeah,
so.
And it kind of makes the trail go cold when the people you're suspecting keep dying, because then you can't question them anymore.
Yeah. So, motioning very fiercely, pointing at nothing.
Pointing at the Rembrandts on your wall.
Yeah, right there, that one. See over the black and white lady or whatever.
But yeah, I like that theory. That's a good one.
Boom, solved it. We're done.
And while that was what was mainly going on and everything, there's a bunch of people who decided maybe we can run our own con on the side and get our buddy out of jail. The investigators never took him up on it. Just never did. They're just like, no, we're not going to let you out of jail. No, you have to be a little bit more precise than that. No.
Yeah.
Give us better evidence than that. No, you're going to jail. As soon as we get the Rembrandts, you're going straight back to jail. You thought? No.
Yeah. That was, like I said, trap. That's my shit.
All the girls stomp feet like this.
So, you're just agreeing with my theory then?
Yeah, like, there's not a whole lot of room to go too terribly out there with this one.
It was aliens. It was the mutants. The mutant babies from the non-virgin, from the non-virgin women from the last episode.
What are you talking about? They were
Do you not remember?
They were virgin boys.
Right, but we were talking about how, you have mutant babies and then you die if you have...
yeah. If you have sex before marriage.
Yeah.
It's the X-Men.
That's who stole them, was the mutant children.
Oh, jeez.
Turns out the heights were all wrong. These were actually like 3'4" little kids.
They were just sitting on each other's shoulders in a trench coat.
Why, these thieves are nothing more than 3 mutants in a large overcoat.
Yeah, even though it was apparently a police overcoat? I don't know.
In a police suit. Like in the suit of a police, they skinned people. Okay, we've got the theory. I need to shut up. So.
God, that went dark.
Well, I was going to say they skinned actual police officers and then put their skin on.
Damn.
Like, shimmied in there so that they would seem taller and look like adults.
Wasn't there like an episode of Doctor Who that was like that? A whole bunch of politicians had been skinned and filled with like slug people that farted a lot.
The Slitheen, yeah.
Yeah.
That's on the first season. Well, the first season of the reboot. It was Eccleston, yeah.
I remember that.
Well, mystery solvers. Cass gave us a great mystery. It wasn't a hard mystery, though. We solved it. We cracked it wide the fuck open. Mm-hmm. As we do.
As we do. Because we're always right,
We are always right. Because we went to Always Right University. So, that's going to do it for this episode, I think. And as usual, you can get a hold of us through email. mysteriessolvedpodcast, all one word, at gmail.com. On Twitter, at UMS_podcast. On Facebook, at Unsolved Mysteries Solved. We would very much appreciate it if you would go to iTunes and rate and review the show. And if you leave us anything less than a glowing review, you are dead to us. So... like
all the people in this heist.
Yes. Well, they're actually dead. You won't be dead. You'll just be dead to us. In the meantime, between time, we will see you right back here next week with a brand new mystery. And remember... yeah,
if you talk bad about us, we will put you down mercilessly. Wait, no.
That was close enough. Talk shit, get hit, bitches. But it is time to once again say goodbye. So say goodbye, Cass.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Thanks for listening, guys. Fucking mole people.
Hello, my lovelies. My name is Chantel, and I'm the host over at Lady Justice True Crime. Lady Justice is a weekly podcast that covers fascinating cases, both past and present, from around the UK and Ireland. Some of them are strange, many are unbelievable, all of them are completely unique and are someone's story. So please come join me on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.